Welcome to the Monday Monologue. Well, we got some fun stuff on the biz today. One thing, we got the chassis from IAG, which I think is International Audio Group. Guy has a website, put the link below. I originally found these on eBay, and I think the first pair of these I bought that we used for the KT120 monoblocks, I did get off eBay, but this last, I bought 2 pairs of these to do the KT88 monoblocks. And because we had some issues with the KT120 tubes and having to kind of search for pick of the litter tubes to even make that amp perform like it should, you know, at the 16 to 18 watts that it'll make when you get the tubes biased up, you know, within spec, we were having a red plate. And some of them were red plating way under their rated wattage. Some of them were, 30 watts under their rated output. They were red plating. So I felt that let's build a KT88. A lot easier to get, whole lot of variety of tubes. There's some other tubes in that same family that you could be able to put into the same amp. We're going to be doing it with fixed bias like we did on the KT120, and we're also going to be doing it with high voltage, low current, because I know that sounds better, or at least in my builds it has. And so we're going to try that out, and I'm going to build them as monos because I've got the iron and stuff here. The problem when you start getting into doing high voltage with fairly high current, the transformers start getting big and super expensive, and then the amps get super heavy, and it's just easier to do mono amps. Not going to put volume controls on them. These are going to be designed to work with a color preamp, and this guy also sells chassis that you could build the preamp if you don't have the ability to fabricate up like the oak chassis that I've been using. And he does a really nice job. He does this slotted vents on the bottom. Now, when I bought the original ones for our KT120s, it just had a blank bottom, and I had to drill the vent holes in it. And I really like these. That looks very professional. And this is some thick aluminum this thing's made out of. It's also got these super nice little rubber feet with the little chrome things on them. So, yeah, this is just definitely almost an upgrade from what the KT120s were made out of. The front and back is extruded. It's got extruded beams inside it, and then it's got nice thick metal plates, aluminum on the top and the bottom. And so, yeah, these are like bomb-proof chassis, and I think they're reasonably priced. And so again, go to his website, send him an email. He does bill an order, so it might take a few weeks. It might have taken a month or so to get this. Maybe 6 weeks, I don't know. But it's like a lot of this stuff. When you order in these things, it just takes a while for somebody to make them up and ship them to you. He also does a super, super nice job packaging them. I mean, he puts a ton of bubble wrap around them and nice sturdy boxes, so you don't have to worry about that. That's going to be something that we build this summer, and hopefully by the end of the summer, any of you guys are interested, I'll probably have a couple of pairs of these for sale. And like I said, you'll get to see it built on the channel. I'm also going to show you, once again, drawing the load lines with the 6EJ7 triode strapped. And I'm also going to show you how I choose the output transformer impedance. And it's probably not the way you think I do it. So, no spoiler. You'll have to wait for that. So, that's coming up. Haven't forgot about the Musical Paradise. I did go ahead and order some open frame output transformers, and then we're going to be doing the final tweaking on the circuit first with the transformers it comes with, and then swap the transformers out and see if that's worth doing or not. So we got that coming up. We got the 6C33C, and then also have some other just little kind of fill-in projects. One thing I've been wanting to do for a long time is work with some vintage iron. And so on eBay, I found a pair of Acro Sound ultralinear TO310s. And these are designed to work ultralinear with 6V6G or GTs, either one. And you probably use the 6BQ5 or EL84s. I think it's going to look better with the 6V6G in the ST bottle. These are some Zenith. They got this cool kind of gray coating on the inside, and then silver getter on the bottom, and the tops are clear. I think these are really cool looking tubes. So there'll be 2 of these in front of each output transformer, and then it uses a 12AX7 per channel for the phase splitter and the driver tube. And this is a circuit that was in the Acro sound catalog. When I put this on a forum, started talking about it, of course, I was just asking a simple question about, hey, it says use a 0.05 coupling cap, and I've got some 0.1s. Do you think that's going to cause a problem? And people started going into this whole, oh, those floating paraphase somethings, don't use that, that's not going to work good, and et cetera, et cetera. And I just can't imagine that Acro Sound is going to publish a schematic to use with their transformers that they haven't tested and that it doesn't work with them. And they showed the performance curves and they look really good. And I honestly just want to see what a 1950s hi-fi amp sounds like. I am probably going to use a slight variation on the power supply. They use like a 5Y3 rectifier tube, which is probably going to be kind of saggy. And I want to use a 5AR4, use a little more capacitance than they were using, because back then, a 20 UF high volt capacitor was, hard to come by. And there wasn't like cheap little 220 UF or 100 UF caps. And so we're going to do a little tweaking on the power supply. Plus I'll be able to use a slightly lower voltage power transformer, which will be a little smaller size, and yeah, all that kind of stuff. So I think there's some goodie to be had there, but yeah, this is going to be cool. And then the other thing I'm on the fence about is you can see there's like kind of a patina. It's got, some scratches, and they're not perfect. They are pretty nice on the fronts, but the tops have, like I said, quite a few scratches in them and stuff. And I found a place on eBay too that has, these stickers replacements, so you can, put new stickers on them that are the same red with the silver. And I'm thinking about, scuffing these off and repainting them probably the same kind of tone to just give it a fresher look. But then there's a part of me that wants to just kind of leave it patinaed, and it's like, yeah, these are just old. They are what they are. So leave in the comments below what you think, because they're not that ratty looking. And I haven't tried, seeing if some of this will clean up or wax up. I don't know. I might even be able to touch some of this up and not have to paint it. I don't know. But let me know what you think in the comments, whether you think I should make the transformers look new or embrace their age, which they're probably about 5 years older than me, so they've been around a while. But they measure good, the leads are nice, I think they're going to work great, and see what some vintage output transformers sound like. And the other thing I'm planning on doing with this build, and I know some of y'all are going to hate this, but I really want to give this like a 1950s mid-century modern kind of vibe. And so I've got that pair of DIY speakers that I painted that kind of seafoam green, bluish color, and I'm thinking about getting just a plain metal chassis from Hammond and painting it to match those speakers, and then use like silver trim rings with a silver knob and a silver badge and a silver little angel eye switch on the front, and make it kind of have that 1950s colors to it. And then it'll match those speakers too, and then possibly sell that whole thing as a set to somebody. But yeah, I know some of you guys are going to say that's going to look horrible, but we're probably going to build it that way anyway. So, and you can comment below on that too if you want. So anyway, that's kind of an update on this stuff, but I want to go back to like this push-pull amp stuff, and I know a lot of people have commented below, hey, can you go deeper into push-pull stuff? Can you, like, explain all of that to us? And why aren't you building more push-pull amps? And part of it is they get exponentially more complicated when you start doing the whole phase splitter thing, and then you got to worry about keeping things in phase. And I don't even know enough about it to really comment intelligently, and that's why I don't pretend that I understand those. Like single-ended amps, I really think I've got a good grasp on what makes them tick and what makes them really kick butt and sound good. But this push-pull stuff is, I understand what's going on, and I finally understand like how some of these phase inverters work and what they're doing. But I don't understand is the ramifications of all the global negative feedback that these things use and how that's all tweaked. And I do know that when you see a circuit and it's got a certain amount of global negative feedback with, a certain, like a capacitor across the feedback loop and stuff, it's normally tuned to a very specific output transformer. And that's one of the reasons that I hunted down these old vintage transformers, is I know that feedback loop and that whole circuit is tuned to these transformers. And while I know how to do a little bit of tuning with like that shade feedback, I normally don't get into using global feedback. One of the reasons why is you don't have to be transformer specific on how you implement it. And so if you start just randomly tossing in even the same impedance output transformers that aren't identical to the ones that the circuit was tested with, that stuff needs to be all tweaked to it to make sure things all stay in phase, so you don't have a bunch of IMD or phase misalignments and stuff that just makes the amp not sound good. And then you also have to be careful. Some output transformers can handle a whole lot more negative feedback than other ones. And so, yeah, that's something that I honestly just don't know a whole lot about. And so I don't want to sit here and, try to blow smoke and to like, hey, yeah, I'm an expert on all this stuff, because I'm not. And I do want to play with these. I want to learn more about it. And that's what we're going to do together on the channel, is build some of this stuff and play with it and maybe do some tweaks on the designs and just kind of see what happens. But the reason I brought that up is, and I'm not sure why this happens, and audio is not the only place I've seen this. I've been involved with the auto industry for decades and been on car forums and stuff, and I know it's going to be a problem when a poster or I get an email and they start off with, I'm an engineer. Every time somebody announces that when they come in, they're basically telling me to STFU, you're an idiot. And it happens in the comments, it happens on the forums, and I can just ask a simple question. I posted this schematic, and I was like, it says to use a .05 coupling cap, and when I do the calculations with the grid leak resistor, it seems like it's not going into a very low frequency. Do you think I should try a 0.1 instead? Because this is a vintage kind of a thing. And then, of course, somebody has to come in and says, well, I'm an engineer, and they show me what I just told them. It's like, here's how you calculate up the capacitor with the grid leak resistor to see how far in the frequency range it'll go. And I'm thinking to myself, I just said that. But I didn't start off with, I'm an engineer. So they assume because you don't have a degree hanging on the wall that you're an idiot and you don't understand anything. And just recently in the comments about that little $90 little chip amp, somebody was starting in on this whole, well, it's irrelevant how much sound pressure level you get out of the speakers with two different amps. It's like, how is that irrelevant? I don't know about you, but when I'm talking about the power of an amp, I want to know how many SPL in the room it can put before it starts distorting. And that's what I was saying about that little chip amp. It says on the box it's 300 watts. People in the comments were like, oh yeah, that's with a 48 volt. With a 36 volt, you're still going to get 150 watts or something. I'm like, guys, it wasn't making the same sound pressure level that I could get out of a 5-watt tube amp without starting to get distorted. So maybe it's making 150 watts at 20% distortion, but my point was, and I was trying to make to you guys, if you've got what I consider normal efficiency speakers, somewhere 88 to 92 dBs, this little amp is like probably 5 watts of power, or an equal to a 5-watt tube amp. And so it did matter. And I mentioned I was using like 2 volts RMS output from a DAC, and my phono stage is probably even a little more than that. And he started talking about, well, you need 4 volts peak to peak, not 2 volts. And it's like, I'm talking RMS. So then he starts replying, well, here's how you calculate up RMS. It's like, dude, I just said that. And I just explained your 4 volts peak to peak is 1.4 volts RMS. I understand that. I don't need you to talk to me like I'm a child. And yeah, I just don't know what it is. And obviously it's not all engineers aren't like that. But it seems like that, and the same thing happened in the audio world. These engineers will start telling, oh, you're just, I've got an engineering degree from Georgia Tech, and you don't know what you're talking about. It's like, dude, I've built this engine and put it on a dyno. I know what kind of power it makes. And you see this little 2-stroke motor. I don't know if you can see it with the amp here, but down in the corner, this little 2-stroke motor down there. I know how to tune those kind of things to make killer power. We were getting over 30 horsepower out of a 6 cubic inch motor. And so, yeah, I know how that stuff works. And no, I don't need some engineer graduate to explain it to me. And it's probably wrong because they're calculating all this stuff and using computer sims and stuff, but they've never actually built anything. And I've learned my stuff from building things. So, anyway, I got to have a little rant my money monologue, and that's my rant. It's like, yeah, it gets frustrating dealing with some of these puffed up engineers that feel like they need to belittle people I don't know. Yeah, it's bizarre, but I've seen it over and over again. So kind of makes me hesitant to want to even participate in some of these forums that are full of a bunch of engineers because they seem to all trip over each other to see who can attack the original poster the most instead of actually answering their question. And at the end of the day, we're all just trying to learn. Not come and watch you try to prove how smart you are. So, it gets back to let's just be nice, guys. There's no reason to just, somebody asks a question, just answer it. You don't have to try to make them look dumb. Or assume they don't know anything because they didn't announce at their first post that I'm an electrical engineer. So anyway, I think it's going to wrap up this money monologue. We don't have a whole lot to talk about. We got a speaker cable review we did a little earlier in the week, and some of y'all are probably going to enjoy that. I'm sure the comments are going to be on fire on that. And yeah, here we are, another Monday. So thanks for watching my videos. Thanks to all you folks that have subscribed. If you do enjoy my videos and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Please like the video. Thanks to you folks recently who've made some donations on my website. I really appreciate that. That really inspires me to hey, let's go build some of this stuff and let's go do some other weird stuff. Because this stuff's not free. And even if I end up selling it, it does take some capital to just get this stuff all here to start working on it. And every once in a while I drop a tube or I get a bump tube or something happens, and yeah, it's just part of dealing with this. So thanks for that. Thanks for you Patreon supporters, and we will see you next week for the Monday Monologue.